And
hello and welcome to A Gypsy's Kiss. I'm Shelley Carney.
And I'm Toby Younis. Stick with us a couple of seconds and we're going to talk about we're going to talk about shiny objects. Fenn and his shiny objects. And we are back.
Yes.
How are you doing, Miss Shelley? I haven't seen you
super.
since Wednesday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been a whole 2 days.
Let me do some housekeeping here.
Housekeeping, you want towels?
Because we all need towels, don't we? So a couple of things. Make sure that before you leave today, you like our video because YouTube likes likes it when you like our videos. Make sure you share our video with your family, friends, neighbors, business associates, and all of your social networks because that helps us to
Grow.
Could we get a two-handed grow?
Grow.
Okay, whatever I say. And then finally, if you are not already a subscriber, this would be a this would be a really good time to subscribe because and then when you click on the subscribe button, you'll see a little notifications bell. Click on that notifications bell, and that way, anytime we announce a live stream or we start a live stream, you will be immediately informed and as a result in the
No.
yes, in the know.
Or yes.
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 So we're going to do a 1 hour long show today. Well, I am a little bit loud. Let me turn down here. We're going to do a 1 hour show today. And so we're going to talk about a couple of things. And it came up as a result of the research that I did in preparation for Wednesday's show. And so I'm going to bring that back to us. But what we're going to talk about is how Fenn says things and how every time he says, not every time, a lot of the times he says something, he presents us with a shiny object that can be a distraction as to what the real answer to the question that had been presented to him. Right? Is that a good way to describe it?
Sure.
And you have to be very cautious because there is mythology that has been established as a result of the interpretation of something that Fenn said, or the reading, actually, rather than the interpretation of something that Fenn said. And it can cause you a problem. I'm going to use myself as an example because it did cause me a problem that I only resolved this week that I didn't have an explanation for. And then we're going to open up the Fenn lines. We're going to open up the phone lines, and we'd like you to call us and tell us the thing that Fenn said that presented you with a shiny object. One of the things that he said that you think to yourself, well, what is going on there? You know, one of my favorites, but I'm not going to cite it today, is the one where he says something like, yeah, right now the treasure chest is probably wet. And that's the whole shiny object thing, the word wet. So Shelley has a couple. One.
Yeah.
One. And I have a couple, including one that I already told you about on Wednesday. And we're going to talk about them, and then we'll open up the phone lines, okay? So we're not going to do Q&A today. We're just going to do call-ins, and you talk about which of the shiny objects that Fenn has presented to the world has bugged you the most. I don't know if the word is bugged. Okay? So what I wanted to do was I wanted to give you guys some examples. We wanted to give you guys some examples of what we're talking about. So I'm going to give you one, and then I want Shelley to give you hers because I think hers is really intriguing. Something on my eye. Because hers is really intriguing, and I want you to hear her explanation for it, and because I really think that's important. So I forgot to turn off my cameras. And then I'll read a couple of more, and I'm going to save the one that I found this week, the one that kicked me this week for last. Okay, so let me start with the one. This is from Mysterious Writings, Weekly Words, and it was April of 2016. And this is shiny object, right? And the where that comes from in intelligence and counterintelligence. One of the kind of, it's not a rule, but it's a saying, is don't allow yourself to be distracted by the shiny object. Because especially in intelligence, the counter operator, the person that you're gathering intelligence on, will occasionally present you with a shiny object that looks like it's really solid, and you're ready to put it into your analysis and do a presentation, and you've got it all resolved, and then somebody informs you, now that's a shiny object, and then presents you the logic behind why it's a shiny object. So never allow yourself to be, and so this is A Gypsy's Kiss, Fenn, Forrest Fenn, treasure hunting rule number 16. Never allow yourself to be distracted by the shiny object that's coming out of Fenn's mouth, whether it is written or spoken, okay? Analyze it. Okay, so Mysterious Writings, Weekly Words, April 2016. Somebody writes, Foxy writes, Mr. Fenn, which direction does the blaze face? North, south, east, or west? Curious, Foxy. And that sounds like a perfectly reasonable question, and Fenn responds. Foxy, I didn't take a radial off the blaze. I'm sorry, it says, I didn't take a radial off the blaze, Foxy. I'm thinking it may not be any of those directions. And so he's given us this answer that we think, oh, well, it's not facing north, east, south, or west. What good information? I won't look for anything that's pointing in any of those directions. Well, the shiny object is that you feel like he's giving you some kind of information, when in reality, in the compass, there are 360 radials. There are 360 degrees. He has eliminated 4 of those, 0, 90, 180, and 270. That leaves the other 356 degrees that are possible to it, and you can get distracted by it, and because the conversation was, well, then could it be...
Did you open the phone lines already?
No, that's actually a personal call, sorry. Okay. But it didn't, the call waiting. Oh, I'm not calling. So sorry, that we were interrupted by a personal call there. I didn't open the phone lines yet. But when he said it's not pointing north, south, east, or west, then people started thinking to themselves, well, maybe it's up or down, as opposed to the 356 other possibilities. And I kind of feel like that's what he wanted us to believe. Okay? I think that was the intent of saying it exactly the way that he did. Go ahead, read your example.
All right.
Because I think this one is really interesting.
Well, this is from Mysterious Writings 6 Questions. And Jenny asks, my previous 6 questions were asked shortly before last year's February 27th segment of the Today Show. Reporting on your extraordinary treasure hunt, it resulted in an explosion of new seekers from all across the world. What are some of your thoughts about the flurry of activity over the past year? Did the excitement towards the chase surprise you in any way? Does it make you think the chest might be found earlier than first thought? So let's see which of those questions he chooses to answer. And Forrest replies, it is interesting to know that a great number of people are out there searching. Many are giving serious thought to the clues in my poem, but only a few are in tight focus with a word that is key. The treasure may be discovered sooner than I anticipated. So he chose to answer the last question. The shiny object is a word that is key. We assume that he means there's a key word in the poem, but that isn't what he says. He says only a few are in tight focus with a word that is key. It could be in the book. It could be that some people are just studying a word, and he knows about that. It could be right or wrong. He's not giving that any credence. He's not really saying if these people are correct in what they're doing. So to assume that there is a key word in the poem and I must look for it in order to decipher the clues to get to the treasure is assuming a lot.
And when he says something like that, it actually starts, it's always the beginning of a controversial conversation. Because then we start imagining which word he's talking about. Most of us go straight to the poem, which word in the poem is key. And then we start debating which word in the poem is key. Everybody has an opinion. There are 166 words in the poem, and I'm willing to bet there are at least 160 opinions on what the word that is key is. He doesn't say that. He doesn't say there's a key word in the poem that you have to decipher in order to figure out the rest of the clues. He says we're not focused on a word that is key. Well, he has written tens, if not hundreds of thousands of words. He has spoken hundreds of thousands, if not millions of words. Which of those words is he referring to as key? Don't be distracted. Focus on what he said at the beginning of all this. Read the book, read the poem, read the book, read the poem another 10 times, read the book another 10 times, keep reading the poem and read the book. And the book that he's referring to is The Thrill of the Chase. And he tells us, read The Thrill of the Chase. Now, of all the words that are in The Thrill of the Chase, especially those 166 words that are in the poem, which of them is key? It's a distraction. It's a shiny object. It doesn't help you get any closer to the treasure. Because he's told us there are no codes or ciphers, and the only time that a key word is important is when you've planted codes and ciphers in your set of directions. He's already told us that they're not there. There's no codes or ciphers in the poem. Then why the keyword? Why is the keyword necessary? Okay, so I think that's one of the better examples of shiny object. Here's another one. Dear Forrest, may I ask what type of car you used to go into the mountains to hide the treasure chest? Yes, Bill, it was a sedan. What Bill was hoping for was to determine whether the year, make, and model. When you say what type of car, that's the kind of answer you expect. What Fenn said was he used the phrase sedan, and hoping that people would interpret that as a particular type of automobile. It is not. It's a body style. A sedan has the three pillars, A, B, and C, and it's divided into three sections. It's divided into a front section, which contains the motor, a middle section of at least 4 doors that contains the people, and a back section that contains the cargo. Now, that cargo could be a trunk. That section could be a trunk. But the simple fact of the matter is, if you look at a Jeep Wagoneer, it has those 3 sections. The trunk has been expanded. That's how we get station wagons. But right, the station wagon came out of the world of design when designers realized the trunk's not big enough. Let's expand it. But you'll see the 3 pillars are still there and the 4 doors are still there. It is also not an indication of how many wheels are driven by the motor. A sedan can be a 2-wheel drive, a 4-wheel drive, and in one case that I'm aware of, a 6-wheel drive. So sedan doesn't tell you anything. It just turns into this distraction, because what you imagine when somebody says sedan is something that looks like the equivalent of a police car. A police car is a great example of a sedan. It has A, B, and C pillars. It has a front section where the motor is housed. It has a middle section where the bodies are housed. It has a back section where the cargo is housed. That's a classic sedan, but that's as far as you're going to get because it's a body type. But people start making assumptions. Well, if it's a sedan, then he couldn't have driven over a creek like we insist that he did to get to our search area. No, that's not right. And the reason it's not right is because a sedan is not an answer. It's a distraction. It's a shiny object. So that's another good example of one.
And last but not least.
I want you to read it. It's right at the top.
You want me to read it?
Yeah.
Okay. This is from Forrest Fenn's scrapbook number E68 on the Dale Neitzel website, daleneitzel.com, May 2014. And Forrest Fenn is quoted as saying, "Many searchers have thought that warm waters halt at a dam because water being released through the flues near the bottom of the dam is much colder than water on the surface of the lake. I have discussed around that subject with several people in the last few days, and am concerned that not all searchers are aware of what has been said. So, to level the playing field to give everyone an equal chance, I will say now that where warm waters halt is not related to any dam."
So, the mythology that came out of that interview from, what was it? May of 2014 was that the treasure is not associated with a dam. That's the mythology. When in reality, if you read it, he's very specific. He's talking about the warm waters behind the dam versus the cool waters that are released below the dam. And he says, that doesn't apply. Well, when it came to me and I heard, and I didn't read this, I just somebody said it's not associated with a dam. I said, where did you find that? He said, scrapbook 68. I took it for granted, and it blew my whole warm waters halt, as a New Mexico game and fishing regulations, because several of my solutions, my theories, involved the dam only because the state of New Mexico uses the bottom of the dam to define where trout waters begin, warm waters halt. And it has nothing to do with the dam. It doesn't have anything to do with the cool waters, hot waters. It only has to do with how the state of New Mexico defines warm waters, trout waters, and special trout waters. And so this mythology has caused people to say, well, if it's not associated with a dam, I can't look. The only time it is not associated with a dam is when your definition of warm waters is the definition that is implemented by the existence of a dam. That is, the waters behind the dam at the surface are generally warm in terms of temperature, and the water released down at the bottom, because cold water sinks to the bottom of whatever reservoir or lake the dam is in front of, the waters released at the bottom are cold. Right? And honestly, there is no standardized temperature for the warm waters on top versus the cold waters on the bottom. I've been in both, and there's no one that can tell me what the difference between the two temperatures are. You just know, oh, this is pretty warm. And I can tell because there's bass in this reservoir, and they're okay with warm water. And this is down at the bottom, it's pretty cool. And look, there's trout, because trout are happier in temperatures around 55 degrees. So if indeed what you've done is avoided incorporating the existence of a dam in your solution. Now, it's also a man-made structure. But again, because it's a man-made structure, and because the definition of warm waters and cool waters has to do with the temperatures of the dam at the top and the bottom, then don't let your warm waters as defined by the game and fish regulations disappear, because I made that mistake. Shiny object, it's not associated with a dam. A little more analysis, and again, I had to do it as a result of the conversation that we had last Wednesday, was no. My warm waters from the New Mexico fishing regulations is perfectly valid regardless of where those warm waters are defined. Two of them, it puts two of our theories back in play, the Rio Chama and the Cimarron River, because of both of them are protected by dams, and warm waters halt at the bottom of those dams, or within 100 feet of the bottom of those dams, and it has nothing to do with the temperature of the water. So if you eliminated Rio Chama and Cimarron as a result of the whole dam comment, as a result of that damn comment, then put them back in play. Okay?
At least in our opinion.
At least in our opinion. Yeah.
What we're trying to do is demonstrate that we assume a lot. When we hear Fenn say something, or we read something that he's written, and we put things together in a way that he may or may not have intended. We assume ourselves in and out of good theories. So we're wondering if you've done the same, and if you're trying to think of a quote, what was it that he said exactly? We found our help at terryscant.com to find these things that meant something to us.
Yeah, if you pull it up at terryscant.com and read the entire quote, as opposed to having somebody tell you in a forum or a chat room, because we've seen it here, right? There was conversation, and you can go back to Wednesday's comments where several people said Fenn said it wasn't associated with a dam. When I mentioned that I was at El Vado Reservoir in Rio Chama, that I had been. That's what we were going to talk about, our first solution.
And follow through on the quote. Find out, click on it. Where did it come from? Did it come from Mysterious Writings? Then most likely it's exactly what Forrest wrote, word for word. Mm-hmm. Is it from Dale's site? One of the scrapbooks. You can bet it's something that he received in an email from Forrest and wrote word for word. Some people's blogs can be, opinion. Some of the forums, of course, are opinion. So you do want to make sure you're looking at exact quotes from Forrest when you're looking those things up.
Yeah. So there were a couple of other things I wanted to say. in our community blog on this channel. If you go to our channel and across the top where you can, the horizontal navigation bar, you'll see community. I posted the interview that I did with Dale Neitzel, where he explains how his name is pronounced. So if anybody ever debates with you how Dale's name is pronounced, then you can point them to, it's actually the interview that I did. I reposted it, but it was an interview that I did way back in 2014 after the Raynell Jacobson drawing that Fenn held, and then we streamed. That was the first streaming effort I did for Fenn way back in 2014. So it's 5 years ago. But then I had an interview with Dale, and we talked about the pronunciation of his name. And I think he admits in that conversation he's not even quite sure how to pronounce it, but that's what he uses. So,
but that's how he says it.
Yeah,
so
that's how he says it.
That's
so
what we're going to go
that's
with.
Good enough, huh? And then one other thing. That's not quite as important, but it might be important to some of you. This is a Fenn Smooth 4. It is a 3-axis gimbal that you used. I don't have it on right now. That I may not have any better power. It's a 3-axis gimbal that you use with a cell phone to get stabilized imagery. The battery's dead. But at present, I own 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 3-axis gimbals, and this is the generation that preceded that one. It's called the Fenn. Is it Fenn or Gypsy? I'm sorry. You know what? It's not Fenn. It's a Gypsy because I have both. This is the Smooth C, and it is the generation that preceded the Smooth 4 that I just showed you. And as you can see, it's still in very good condition. It was only used a couple of times. They announced it, I saw it, and then about a month later they announced this one. So I bought this one off Amazon. So it's got very little use. The batteries are fresh. It's got everything that came with it. And we're going to put that on eBay this afternoon and start the auction at $1. And the auction will go 7 days. So if you need a 3-axis gimbal to make your video better when you're using your mobile phone, there's a Smooth C going up on eBay this afternoon. Okay, so I hope you are all dying to call in and tell us what your experience is with the way that Fenn says things and how he presents the shiny object, because now the phone lines are open. So give us a call and tell us what you think about all of this.
So I think we did a whole show on the keyword, and the whole time I was just like, I don't really think there's a keyword, and so. Yeah, I should have looked it up and thought about it back then.
Yeah, I think we all have a tendency to do that. We get in on the mythology, right? Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, it's not associated with the dam. He said so. Not what he said. It's not what he said.
It's not associated with the temperature of the water that comes out of a dam.
Right. And I think if you're in a chat room or another forum and somebody says something in a short sentence like that, it's not Fenn said it wasn't associated with the dam, then don't ask them, to give you the citation. Do yourself a favor and go find the citation, and go find the citation, and then determine for yourself exactly how he said what he said. So I don't think there's any questions. If there are questions in the room, make sure you precede them with the @ sign and a gypsy's kiss. Let's see. Greg Keller says, I discussed with my boss having a better things to do on Wednesday evening, as you suggested, due to watching a dynamic duo on YouTube, and he wasn't very keen on that. Well, perhaps he's not a fan of Forrest Fenn.
Well, perhaps he just wants you to work.
Shelley Carney, yeah. It's probably that whole paying you for work thing.
Yeah.
So,
curse of the drinking class, as my husband says.
Yeah. So because Kevin, Shelley's husband, works the afternoon to evening shift at the airport, and he pops in every once in a while. But I'm sure Shelley would agree that if
he doesn't watch if he's working.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, if he's sitting there waiting and doing nothing, he can watch.
Yeah.
But other than that, he doesn't.
Okay, phone lines are open. Call in and tell us what your favorite Fenn shiny object
Or
was.
let us
Let's
know
talk
if
about
you disagree with
Yeah.
our analysis. We're basically saying don't make assumptions. Read it for yourself. Read the original quote, and get to the bottom of it. Before you base your whole solution on something like that.
Tony Driver makes the point per Dale's. I guess when you read it, it's kind of a Dale's cheat sheet where warm water's halt is not a dam. And I've seen that cheat sheet. And there are several things on Dale's cheat sheet that one should go and check out yourself. And this is a classic example of those. And I'm not saying Dale is trying to mislead us. He's doing the same thing that everybody did, right? It's not as though Fenn wrote it. He literally put out a scrapbook about it. And he says, in the scrapbook, he says, just leveled the playing field.
Yeah.
So he went through all the trouble of explaining what he was doing when he said that, leveling the playing field. And then what resulted was Dale and other people, a lot of us, because I've said it, I've repeated it. It's not associated. Fenn said it's not associated with a dam. I have said those exact words. That's not what Fenn said. So even on the cheat sheet, if you feel the same way, what Fenn said is warm water's halt is not the differential between the waters behind the dam and the waters that stream out of the bottom of the dam.
I think it all comes down to, the most important thing is the poem and the book. If you're basing your solution or theory on things that have been said since then, you want to go back to those things and really check them out deeply and ask yourself, could there be another meaning that am I assuming, am I overgeneralizing what has been said here, and is it affecting my theory? Is it throwing me off?
Yeah.
That whole it's in the mountains somewhere north of Santa Fe. How did it go from north of Santa Fe to it's somewhere in the entire Rocky Mountains? And
yeah.
How did it get that big, and why?
And that's another one. I mean, Fenn has said it's in the Rocky Mountains. Well, based on, and this is our confirmation bias, if it's in the Rocky Mountains, then it's in New Mexico. The Rock is saying that it's in the Rocky Mountain doesn't exclude New Mexico. It just includes 3 other states. I will point out that Fenn has never said the treasure is in either or one of New Mexico, Colorado, Wyoming, or Montana. One has to wonder why he's never used that exact phrase. He's never said that. He's always said, since 2013, he said it's in the Rocky Mountains. Prior to that, he didn't use even the phrase.
He just said north of Santa Fe.
Right.
Even in the mountains, north of Santa Fe. Which is in the book. Again,
right.
If you're only looking at the book and the poem, that's in the book. It's north of Santa Fe. So I guess nobody wants to dispute us today.
That's good. All right.
They're all out looking at Terry Scant.
All checking Terry Scant. So just Donna says, let me give you an example. In my opinion, I believe it is not associated with a dam. I agree with you. I believe it is not associated with a dam either, but not because Fenn said so. He said it's not the warm waters halt at a dam, don't halt at a dam. And he also said it's not associated with a man-made structure. That's why I believe it's not associated with a dam. But again, there's waters that are below that dam that are neither a man-made structure or associated with a dam. The Rio Chama existed before the dam in front of El Vado Reservoir existed. So,
did you answer DJ Novatek? Did you define south of El Vado Lake Cooper's Ranch as southern part of the Rockies?
Yes, I did, but I just didn't put it in the community blog as I promised you. But yes. Oh, that's another one. Tony Driver reminds us of the more than 66,000 links, 8.25. We were planning a show on that particular comment because I don't think you can get to it. Was on Richard Saunier's blog, Mountain Walk, and Richard was a very thoughtful searcher and I think a friend of Fenn's. But he wrote really beautiful prose, and at some point he talks about distances and things like that. And there's a response to that, and it's written by a person whose name is Forrest with one R.
Yeah.
Fenn.
Yeah, it was misspelled.
It was misspelled. And then if you read through the rest of that whole 66,000 links thing.
He didn't put the FF at the end like he always does.
Doesn't put that, and it doesn't sound like Forrest's writing. It's not at all Forrest's writing. Now, soon after that, Forrest started using the 8.25 miles north of Santa Fe as a way to keep people off his property. And the assumption we made is that he went to Saulnier's blog and wrote that, rather than he saw that on Saulnier's blog and started using that. But if you can find Saulnier's blog, I've got it copied somewhere, the link to it, because you can still get to it in the Internet Wayback Machine. Saulnier, back in, I think it was 2016 or 2017, had an accident, and he broke his leg in several locations and ended up retiring at that point. He was a surveyor. He was a land surveyor, if I remember correctly, he and his brother. And at that point, because of the damage that was done to his leg and his age, he decided to retire. And the last I heard, he had retired to Arizona. So I wonder if he ever sees any of these things. If Richard, you ever see any of these videos, please contact us at the toll-free number 866-597-9901. We'd like to hear from you and hear what's up with you.
So Hooley wants to know, does that mean the treasure chest could be in Canada? No, he did specifically hold up the map and say, if you knew where the treasure was, you could find it on this map, and it only went to Canada. So the treasure is located somewhere on that map.
Right.
And have we ruled out the Red River area? Joshua Davidson wants to know.
No, because there are special trout waters on the Red River.
Yeah, but that's not warm waters.
Well, no, but if there are
trout waters, special trout waters.
So special trout waters are part of trout waters, and the trout waters start where the warm waters halt.
We didn't go to Red River though.
We didn't, no.
Because you were like, it's
no,
all
I
deserty,
did.
desert
had
looking.
Yeah, I had
no
gone.
Pine trees.
I had been to Red River.
Yeah.
Before you were
You
out
didn't
searching.
like the looks of it.
I didn't like
you
the
didn't
looks.
You
It
said
wasn't
didn't
Fenny
look,
enough.
Didn't look Fenny. It
Definitely
doesn't
not
look
Fenny.
So kind of, sort of, we have ruled it out because of the lack of pine trees and fenniness.
Fenniness. Okay.
Donna disagrees with us. DJ Navatek says, where is this community blog located? Do I have to take it in the Canyon Down community blog?
Oh, the community blog is on our channel. So if you go to here.
So if you're subscribed to our channel, you should be able to see.
I'll just put a link in. If you've been a YouTube partner for a certain length of time, one of the features they give you is a community blog, a community page, which is like a blog associated with the, here, I'll put the link in it for you.
Have you ever thought about whether or not the chest is in Santa Fe County, or even discussed the fact that Santa Fe County reaches far above Santa Fe, the city?
Yes, we have discussed it, but if you look at the area around Santa Fe County, it is almost completely surrounded by either tribal or grant or private land. We do have a call. Hey, you've reached Shelley and Toby. Who is this? Where are you calling from, and what's your comment?
This is Rick down north of Houston.
Hey, Rick.
Glad to get to talk to both of you.
Hi there.
I didn't notice you guys were coming on at this time of day. I thought you were on at 7 o'clock tonight, so I just got into it. So I really do appreciate all these YouTubes you're putting on. It really is great.
Thank you. That's very kind of you. We appreciate you listening.
Okay. I do have a question just a little off your subject.
Okay.
If it's all right, it's to do with the so-called puzzle inside the poem. Do you have any idea of what's going on with that?
I guess the most accurate way to describe it is there. If you think of the word puzzle as a generic term for something that requires intellectual consideration over and above the words in the poem, then yes, there is a puzzle in the poem. A better way to think about it, I think, I shouldn't say a better, our way to think about it is that the words and sentences and phrases in the poem are metaphorical references to what are likely real objects, that is, objects that exist in reality. The puzzle implies that they are somehow intertwined, like a crossword, right? A crossword to me is like a puzzle. You have to put it together in pieces, and all the pieces have to put together, or even a jigsaw puzzle. I don't feel like the poem is structured like that. I think the poem is very straightforward. It's not quite the pirate map that we would all like, but it is. One would have to assume that it is each of the lines or phrases in the poem is a metaphor for something that exists in reality. I've never thought of it as a puzzle.
Okay, well, my background is that I'm a retired petroleum geologist out of Denver, Colorado, and also when I lost my job, I went to work for Rocky Mountain Airways as a pilot. And I wound up retiring from United Airlines as a pilot here not too long ago. And I spent a lifetime up and down those Rocky Mountains. And a few things I'll say that I think you're exactly right is, one, it's definitely in New Mexico. Just the logic of the puzzle and the rest of it. We've been, my partner and I, a retired pilot, we've been boots on the ground 3-4 times. And New Mexico and once Brown Canyon in Colorado, because we both lived in Colorado. And I'm not saying we're any nearer than anybody else. You both shake your heads, and I'm both in the same boat. Everybody's stuck on a warm waters halt.
Right.
And to me, as being a geologist, as anybody stating that anything would last for possibly 1,000 years has to be geological.
We agree.
So some of these people are getting off on their little tangents. It's fine. Nobody knows until they find it, as you both discussed. But to me, every one of these things has to be geological. It's one of the clues. And the first clue he's given you, the last clue to me, is pretty simple. Is when you look quickly down, quest to cease. That would be number 9. And but part of the thing back to the puzzle part is like, why would you look quickly down? Why don't you just look down? And there's different things, the way he says things that nobody's going to understand unless you can understand the way he thinks. So let me ask you a couple of questions.
It strikes me that the experience of you being a geologist, what did you say, petrochemical geologist? Yeah. And
I was a petroleum geologist.
Petroleum, not petrochemical, but petroleum geologist, which is a geologist nonetheless, just a very specialized area, and a pilot gives you some distinct advantages in this search, for no other reason, understanding some of the lingo. What are your thoughts on that?
Yes, and you're pretty good when you discuss the private pilot part of it. You're pretty close on a lot of it, but one of the things that has been discussed about him flying 500 feet over the ground. Well, legally, you can only fly 500 feet above the ground if it's unpopulated area. And nobody in their right mind ever do it in the Rockies.
Right.
You might do it over a lake or sand dunes or something like that, but you cannot possibly fly 500 feet over the Rockies because you can't turn, you can't bank, you can't pull up and miss something. You can't. So you have to forget the 500 feet over the Rockies flying. That's just completely off the wall.
Yeah, we agree, and we've said that for exactly those reasons. There is no such thing as flying a flight path 500 feet over the Rockies, whether it is populated or not.
Right.
You're just putting your life in your hands at that point.
Exactly.
So
But I have used. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to ask you, tell me a little bit more, if you don't mind, tell me a little bit more, because you've used the word a couple of times after I told you what I thought. Tell me a little bit more as to how you feel like the poem is a puzzle, which indicates to me that there are interconnections that I'm not seeing. What do you mean?
Well, and I think it's verbiage, maybe more than anything. And I'll give you another one that is just a word that he uses in there. I think it was twice in the poem. It's chalk.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there are such things as chalk cliffs, and there are a certain age cliffs there in Colorado and all. But he doesn't use the term that way. He chalks it like you put a check mark for experience.
Right.
On something.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, there's a lot of different words in there that you can't go to the dictionary and look it up, and it makes no rhyme or reason. It's his interpretation, and that's where a lot of stuff comes convoluted. To me, is I'm trying to look at it maybe too smart versus looking at it as a kid would look at it and take something for a grain of salt. When you think of something and you start looking in one of the sentences, you're probably like me, is that you work the heck out of that stupid sentence. You look at it from all different angles, you probably overthink it, and you're trying to get back to a basic understanding level of something. And I'll give you a good clue. The first time I got the book, the poem in there, I had my wife read it. And right off the bat, she read the thing. She says, I have no idea what he is thinking. And that was the end of it. She was no more interested. She couldn't help. And that's the type of thing I think you're looking at.
Yeah. So
I was hoping to get some help, but that was into that.
Yeah, I think generally speaking, we have all, as searchers, experienced that where we've presented it as someone who we thought might be able to help us, including a couple of my children, and they just looked at me like, well, it's a poem, what does it mean? But I do want to go back to something you said about look quickly down your quest to cease. So when I first read the poem, one of the questions that arose in my mind is, as you suggested, was the word quickly. Why not just look down? And the only answer I could come up with is that what gives it's the poem is written in a certain rhyme and meter, and without a two-syllable word at that point in the poem, it would have thrown it off meter, right? If you've been wise and found the blaze, look down your quest to cease. And so he added the word quickly as just a continuation of the poetic rhyme and meter that he had maintained up to that point. What do you think about that?
Well, I understand what you're saying, but you know what? I hate to say this, but
don't be afraid to say anything on this show.
You're almost too smart to be looking at this point.
Oh. I don't know. Is that kind of an offhanded compliment?
Your background, I understand it completely, and I do think you might be
overanalyzing it. Yeah, that will not have been. Yeah, that will not have been the first time I've been accused of that. So don't feel bad.
Okay. Well, I just think there are some things that he throws in here in different little spots to either throw you off or make you say, okay, well, maybe you're looking at the wrong way. Actually giving you a hint. And, when you start out, let's start at the beginning. I don't want to waste all your time, but just a couple of things.
Okay.
Is the first thing he says is when you go down to take it in the canyon, That's easy. That you're driving down the canyon, you're going down the boat, or you're inside the confines of the canyon, but too far to walk.
Mm-hmm.
Well, even at his age, he's not carrying the chest. He's not taking the chest till he gets out of his car. So that distance is quite a variety. It could be quite a variety of distance.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it may not be 1 mile. It may not be half mile. It may be several miles. But you're going to drive down that canyon down to where you put in below the home of Brown. To me, that's a boating term.
Right.
But anyway, you're going to put in, whether maybe it's a bunch of rafters put in there or it's a campground or whatever, but you're going to put in there, and then you're going to go on foot. So why can't that distance from in the beginning there be longer than what you think?
Mm-hmm. Well, that has been, for me, has always been one of the confounding elements of the poem. How far is not far, but too far to walk.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I agree with the rest of them. Once you put in below the home of Brown, you're all within a fairly close distance.
Yeah, agreed. Agreed with that. Well, thank you for calling in, and please feel free to please feel free to share our thoughts. We have 4 shows a week. Share your thoughts. We have 4 shows a week. 2 on Wednesday, 2 on Friday, and on Fridays it's a little bit more open once we open the phone line, so you're not limited to the topic of the day. It's just general things, and I appreciate the fact that you have both geological and flight experience, and I think you could add a lot, and maybe whenever a question comes up in the room, you may be able to help us with the answer. So make sure you take the time to call in on any of our shows.
Okay. Well, I appreciate both of you, and I'm glad to help any way I can. Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Our
Talk
pleasure.
to you later, then.
You have a good day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Wow. A guy with both geology, a degree in geology, and petroleum geology, but geology nonetheless, and flight.
Yes.
I want to search for that guy.
We had a question, I don't remember now who it was from, other than it was a female who asked it. What's the difference between mountains and Rocky Mountains? Of course, mountains would be general, and Rocky Mountains are a particular range of mountains
that cover the areas in the, let's see, it's the central western U.S. because they go up into Idaho. There's some in Idaho. There's some... So, yeah, the Rocky Mountains are a specific range of mountains as opposed to...
So when he said in the mountains north of Santa Fe, that was general. And then when people started suggesting the Rocky Mountains, and he's like, he took a look at where his special place was, and he decided, yes, indeed, those were the Rocky Mountains. So, yeah, we could be that specific, if you want to call it specific, rather than, another range of mountains.
If we're looking... So maybe another way to put it is, if you're looking in the mountains north of Santa Fe, you're looking in the Rocky Mountains.
There's no other mountains up there to the east or west?
No, not if you're looking in the mountains north of Santa Fe, you're in the Rocky Mountains. There are sub-ranges in there like the Sangre de Cristos and the Tusas, but they're all part of the Rocky Mountains. That's the major range.
There you go.
So there, put that in your smike and popet.
You need to stop saying that's so weird.
Okay. So I did put a link to our community page in the chat a couple of times. So if you want to get to that community page, it's the equivalent of a blog that's associated with our channel, and I've been using it more and more to keep you guys updated and stuff like that. So.
And Point Vlog says why Forrest Fenn did not write swiftly down or look sharply down. Obviously, the word quickly means something.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah.
But what? You only know if you're in Forrest's brain.
Or you're above the treasure. Okay, that was a fun call. I think we have another one coming in. Hey, you reached Shobi and Telly.
Shelley-san and Toby-san?
Shelley-san. Oops.
Oh, see,
no,
now
I
they know.
embarrassed them. They thought they were at the wrong place if I said Shelley and Toby. When we did that,
We're on
show with
gonna ship our names.
Shobi and Telly.
Shobi and Telly.
Nice.
That's pretty cool because it's
Okay,
like,
if that was
put
you
on a
that just
show on
called
the
in,
telly. Shobi and Telly.
If that was you that just called in and you were disturbed by the fact that I said you're wrong, but there we go. It's going back. Okay, good.
Got confused.
Hey, you've reached Toby and what the?
They didn't want to talk to us live. They wanted to leave a message.
Oh, well, I've got the phone lines open right now, so if you want to leave a message, you're going to have to wait till after 2 o'clock, okay? And then you can call in and leave a message.
Shadobi.
Shadobi.
Davias.
Shadooby-doo-doo. Sounds like one of those. Shadooby-doo-doo.
All right. So if we have anybody else who wants to make a comment about today's topic.
Okay, I'll give them one more time, and then they get blocked.
Is this Joe Treasure Hunter?
No, I don't think so.
Hello.
Numbers, third time's a charm.
Hello.
Third time's a charm.
Yeah.
Navatek from Gallup, New Mexico.
Is this you, DJ Navatek from Gallup?
Yes, sir.
Hey.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's all right. We can recognize that whole Gallup, New Mexico thing.
Sticking to the subject, what the heck did he say?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
In the Moby Dickens, around 11 minutes and 7 seconds, interviewer said, did you hide it 2 times or did you carry it the second time?
Mm-hmm.
And then Fenn said, I hid the whole thing in one spot.
Right.
But it took me 2 trips to get to that with it,
Mm-hmm.
with the weight of the treasure chest.
Mm-hmm.
And then the interviewer said, from the car to the spot, ? And then Fenn said, a very special spot.
Mm-hmm.
So I took it as the definition of a trip is a journey. So I'm thinking the first journey was a car. And then the second journey was him actually taking it somewhere. So it's plausible it could be, he could have carried the chest to one spot.
Right.
Not taking 2 trips, divided the weight and then, take it in, carry it from the car and take 20 pounds of it, take from the car to the spot and then go back to the car, get the rest of it, and then go back to the spot. So I kind of take it as the 2 trips to get there. The one trip to actually get there, and then the second trip to actually carry it and place it. But that had me saying, what the heck did he say?
Yeah, because it could very well be interpreted that way. If you were to say, you're thinking of it in terms of a linear trip. So the first trip is from his house to a parking place, and the second trip is from the parking place to his special place. Is that what you're implying?
Right.
Yeah.
Right,
I think
right.
there have been other instances of him describing the journeys, right? He has said he made 2 trips in one afternoon, and the implication being that the treasure was too heavy, but you can interpret that. So I think this is one of those that we have to go back and see all the times that he's made references to the 2 trips and see if in any of those cases it could be, you're actually very much in line with what we're talking about today. And I think we have to go back into all those times that he said he made 2 trips in one afternoon. I had to carry it twice, etc., and go back and analyze it and see if we've been distracted, if the shiny object has been 2 trips to hide the treasure, 1 to hide the chest, 1 to hide the treasure. And I think there actually is a citation out there where he specifically says, I made 2 trips, 1 to hide the chest, 1 to hide the treasure, but we'll have to go back to all of those references and see if there's a possibility that your analysis, that it's linear. I made one trip to the parking from my house to the parking spot and a second trip from the parking spot to my special place. Because based on what you recited, it sounds like it could very well be that way. So we've got to go back to all the others and determine whether any of them gives us an indication that it isn't. So now we have to disprove what you're saying. That's pretty good.
Well, then that leads me to believe that, maybe, so if he did indeed do the 40 pounds, that means it was a very short distance, because it said it'd take him 20 minutes to get back to the car.
Yeah.
So if it's 20 minutes, then for an 80-year-old man carrying a 40-pound chest in a single trip, that means that would entail it's not very far at all from where he parked.
Right. Agreed. Yeah.
Right, because it's 20 minutes, because, let's see, because I was doing some math and distances on how far, an 80-year-old man recovering
from cancer,
from right, and carrying a 40-pound, that's pretty heavy. For even for my sake. So I'm thinking it has to be within because a mile is what, 5,300 feet?
5,280, but about 5,000.
Right, 5,000.
Yeah.
Right. So if you take that in half, the average person, 14 minutes a mile without carrying anything, 14 to 16 minutes. So if you chop that in half a mile, you might be thinking about a third of a mile carrying 45 pounds.
Yeah. We came to that conclusion that the distance between where he parked the car to where he hid the treasure, his special place, is under 1,000 feet. And the reason is, once you're walking in, you're 80 years old and you're walking in the mountains, you're not going to get a 14-minute mile. You're going to do a 20 to 25-minute mile, right? And then it starts. That's why it took an entire afternoon. So, well, let me go back and take a look. You've piqued my curiosity. Let me go back and take a look at those other citations about the distance, and let me see if there's anything in there that gives us a more firm idea of whether or not he's referring to 2 trips from the car to the special place, or 2 trips in an afternoon that could be from his house to the parking spot and then from the parking spot. I'll take a look at that. I think that's a reasonable question to get answered. By the way, for those of you that have never lifted 42 pounds, get one of those buckets, one of those 5-gallon buckets that you get at Lowe's or Home Depot or wherever you got your 5-gallon bucket from. Fill it with water and pick it up. That's about 42 pounds right there, because water is about a little over 6.8 pounds per gallon, something like that. Okay. All right. Say hi to your family for us. Is your wife listening right now?
No, she's at work right now.
No.
Both at work.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, thanks for calling in, DJ. We will talk to you later this evening, I'm sure.
Thank you, guys.
Have a good one. Bye-bye. So, I just got a severe storm warning. What's that about?
Are you going to close the phones? It's 2 minutes till.
Oh, okay. Hold on.
Too late.
Too late. All right. Last call for the day.
Until tonight.
Hey, you've reached Shelley and Toby. Who are you? Where are you calling from? And what's your comment? What's up? What's up, my brother?
My name is Richard Crawford. I'm calling from Arizona, here on the Arizona Strip, and I'm responding to what the heck did Forrest say.
Oh, great. What is the Arizona Strip? I've never heard any. What's the Arizona Strip?
That's the Utah. The Arizona Strip basically is everything north of the Grand Canyon that's in Arizona.
Oh, okay.
So.
Well, thank you. I just never heard. I've never heard it referred to that way.
And I grew up in Arizona, so I didn't know.
So what you got?
I'm gonna have to get I'm gonna have to get away from the TV because it's a delayed thing here. So
Yeah. We always recommend you turn it down.
Okay. Well, responding to what Forrest says, I'm going to turn this on pause here.
Yeah.
I wanted to refer to the question that he said, that you mentioned earlier, where he said, "Look quickly down."
Mm-hmm.
And some of the comments that he said at other times may be a clue to that "look quickly down" that's in the poem.
Okay, go ahead.
Are you following?
Yeah, got exactly. Go ahead and tell us what you think.
For instance, he was asked it several times if he buried the treasure. And I believe his response was something like, "I'm not going to say I buried it, but I'm not going to say I didn't either," or something like that. He gave a double answer.
Right.
And my personal view on it, just putting it all together, goes right to that "look quickly down" clue. I think that it's in the ground, it's down in the ground, but I think it's in visible sight. But if you don't look quickly down as you pass over it, you will miss it.
But it's not buried. It's just placed in a rock, in a crevice in a rock. What you're suggesting?
Exactly.
Yeah, I think that's
if you're not looking down quickly and you're moving fast, you're going to step right over the top of it and not know that it's there.
Yeah, and Lord knows I've been in situations where we've been on rock faces like that, not vertical faces, but horizontal surfaces, and you have a tendency to walk right over them. You know, you don't think about looking down into them. And I think what you're suggesting is good, solid logic. I think that's a good sense of what he means when he says "look quickly down."
Another clue that I guess he answered was asked is, he said, "Is it wet?" You know, people were speculating whether it was in the water, in the stream, under a waterfall, or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that he said that it wasn't buried in the water, but he did say that I know it is wet.
Mm-hmm.
And so anything that's down in the ground in the Rocky Mountains at the elevation, between those elevation marks, we could speculate and say at the time he answered that question of the poem, Forrest being Forrest, he may have thought, I can't remember what time of year it was he asked that question. But anything in the Rocky Mountains during much of the year is going to be wet, and if it's in an area that holds a lot of snow, it's going to be wet throughout most of the year.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, there's also
go along.
He also mentioned that it had to do with physics, and if you consider the physics of the bronze chest heating and cooling at a rate differently than the air around it, that would cause condensation as well, and not to mention the dew that is formed in the morning, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a lot of ways it could be wet at any given time of the year, independent of whether or not it's been snowing, raining, or whether or not it's in the water. So I think that's a good analysis too.
One other little thought. I remember earlier in the search, it's been quite a few years ago, when he was talking about it, he said, bring a sandwich, and I believe he said a flashlight.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I've thought about that too, and putting that in context, and it goes along with the look quickly down. And that is, if you're walking over rocks or over crevices or over a feature and it's dark down there and you don't look quickly down or carefully down and you don't have a means of light, you have too much shadow, you could also miss the treasure. So I've just put together a series of his questions that seems to make sense to me. And to me, I think it's down in the rocks.
Yeah.
That's my take on it.
I think that's a very good take. I think we've come to the same conclusion that it is hidden in a place that it's not buried, but you could walk right past it if you didn't take the time. And we all, when we're boots on the ground, we all carry flashlights, and just to make sure that we're looking literally in every nook and every cranny. All right, sir. We've got to close the show down for this afternoon.
Can
Thanks.
I say one last thing here?
Sure.
One last little clue that I think it's been mentioned before. At least I've seen it, but it also came to my thought was the term Terry scant is a unique Terry scant is a unique little phrase that, being in the construction field, scant is a unique term that not very many people know about that is associated with rock.
Mm-hmm.
A scant is a cut off piece of a rock. So that's something to think about.
Something to think about there. Yeah, very nice. Well, thank you for adding to the conversation. We really appreciate you calling in today.
Okay, thank you.
Have a good day.
Okay, bye.
Okay, that's it for today. We're a little bit over our time. The phone lines are off right now, and
But we will be back this evening for more chances for you to call in or send us a text throughout the day or leave a voicemail, especially you, George.
George has.
Obord.
So George did leave us a voicemail for
okay.
tonight, right?
There you go. See?
So
So you
we
have something
gotta-
to look forward to.
you
George
got
is
to-
going to be on voicemail tonight.
We've got some voicemails from a voicemail from George to play tonight, and we've got text messages, we've got emails.
Yeah.
So we've got a lot of things happening tonight that you can join us on Forrest Fenn Friday.
Dancing and singing and all that
Dancing
stuff.
and singing. We're going
It's
to be
our
doing some
Fandango.
dancing. That's why it's a Fandango.
That's right.
Oh, and by the way, Tom K., thank you for finding that pink flamenco.
Oh, he found it? Where did he
Yeah,
find
he
it?
found it in the YouTube non-copyrighted music. I don't remember getting it from
I
there.
suggested you look there. Oh, no, I didn't get there. No,
I didn't.
No, that's
I've never
me.
used it. I've never used that.
Mhm, sure.
So anyway, that's where he found it. I'm going to go looking for it again because I think
See, at least Tom listens to me.
I'm I'm going to start using it again because we're getting copyright strikes for using some of this copyrighted material.
Okay. I guess we'll have to use YouTube music. Sorry, guys.
Oof, YouTube. Well, it's not bad. I mean, it's just not. I don't remember. I have no memory of ever having used
Yeah, I know
YouTube
you have
to
no memory.
getting material. So, okay. This is. You want to say your goodbyes?
Sure, are we ready? Okay, thanks for being here today, for all your great questions, comments, and phone calls, and for your kind attention. We do hope to see you again this evening for our Friday Fandango at 7 o'clock p.m. And for A Gypsy's Kiss, I'm Shelley Carney.
And I'm Toby.
Do you even know your name?
Not anymore,
See?
apparently.
No memory, no
memory. It's all gone. And I'm Toby Younis. Thanks for joining us today. We will see you at 7 p.m. this evening for Forrest Fenn Friday Fandango and the good times associated
Toby
with that.
remembers to show up
Yeah.
and wear pants.
And we're don't. Now they're going to think I'm not wearing pants. I'm wearing pants.
Oh, and bye.
Oh.